Hey guys, what's going on? ZeroArmada here with a little game type overview for Soldier Front 2. We are playing Hero Mode, and Hero Mode is kind of an out-of-the-box game type. If you've ever played League of Legends or Dota 2, Heroes of New Earth, you've had a pretty good understanding, and you probably have a really good understanding of how Hero Mode operates. It's essentially a MOBA, a multiplayer online battle arena. It's really similar to those type of games. It's first person though. It's a first person shooter kind of melded and mixed with the MOBA aspects of a good MOBA game. And if you don't know what a MOBA is, basically you have a map, you have one side being defense, one side being offense, or you have team A, team B. And each team's objective is to defend their tower and attack the other team's tower. So both sides have their own towers. They have their own set of turrets in 3 lanes, so you have 3 lanes to go about going from your tower to the enemy's tower, and each of those lanes have their own turrets for each half of the side defending that respective tower, if that makes sense. So if you're one team, you're basically going to have to go from your point to the enemy's point while destroying turrets and destroying mobs that are affiliated with that team. So not only does each team have their own set of turrets, their tower, but they have mobs that spawn at periodic times that kind of progress through each lane, attacking the other mobs, and going and attacking the turrets, and ultimately the tower once the turrets are gone. So it kind of boils down to a game of attrition. Who can push the other team further back, and who can really push in and destroy the turret or the enemy tower the fastest. If it doesn't come down to someone destroying an enemy team's tower, it's whichever team has done the most damage to the enemy team's tower. So whoever does the most damage wins the game. And there's a lot of different various aspects, little small details that kind of really make the game mode unique and fun. Like I said, if you've played MOBA games, you'll have a really good understanding because it's a lot similar. I mean, really the only difference between Hero Mode and League of Legends per se is it's first person shooter. You have guns, and your character or your field of view is in first person. You have a marketplace. You can buy weapons, you can buy utility stuff like a flash grenade or a stun grenade, you can buy a gravity grenade, you can buy an airstrike, you can buy another grenade that will summon a huge kind of mini boss type mob that will attack for you. Weapons, you can buy a FAMAS, an RPG, machine gun, dual scorpions. There's a various type of set of weapons you can buy. You also have power-ups. Each level you gain a set of you get 1 point in each stat. You have 3 stats. You have damage, armor, and speed. So that's kind of a little RPG element to this as well. And you can also buy power-ups, which are 100 gold each. And you can, for the most part, people really just build for damage, and that's kind of what I recommend. Damage then armor. For the most part, from what I've seen, speed it's kind of negligible. I think if you have a lot of points in speed, it'll help, but you won't really notice the difference. I think damage is where you'll have the biggest impact and where you'll have the biggest difference if you put your points in damage. And the way you gain gold or you gain points to spend on the weapons, the power-ups, and the utility stuff is by killing mobs, killing turrets, and killing enemy players. That's simple as that. That's what you have to do. Kind of what I recommend for the early part of the game. You don't have any weapons. You don't have really anything you can do. For your default weapon, you have the dual axes or whatever melee weapon you have equipped. That's going to be your default weapon of choice. So mostly you'll be associated with like a dual axe or dual hammers. And for those, one thing to really keep in mind, they can potentially be one-hit kills. So that's kind of really important to not feed the enemy team by dying a lot, but if you can get a lot of kills on your enemy team at the beginning, that's going to be really indicative of how the match will go. You'll get fed pretty early, so you can kind of continue to lay your will down on the enemy team by killing them a lot, doing a lot of damage, and I think really the way to kind of get yourself in the best position and get a really good head start is you start off with about 100 gold at the beginning of the game, and a stun nade is about 50 gold. So I would recommend you buy a stun nade. It basically paralyzes an enemy for about 5 or so seconds. If you find an enemy near you, throw a stun nade, get behind them and melee them. Melee is one hit kill from behind, so that's a quick way to get some kills, and also kind of utilize guerrilla tactics or utilize sneak tactics to kind of get behind enemies. You'll see it a little bit in this gameplay. I get behind enemies at the beginning and just one hit kill, boom, simple kill, a lot of gold, and they're out of the game for a little bit of time. Respawn time starts off really short, then as the game progresses it can get up to about a minute before you respawn after you die. So that's really pivotal, especially at the end game, to kind of get some kills. And not only do you get gold, but you take a player off the enemy team for a pretty prolonged amount of time. So you have that to get early kills. Another thing that you can really do to kind of get yourself a great head start, gold. If you get a lot of gold, you can get weapons, you can get power-ups really early, like the strength power-up or the damage power-up I was talking about earlier. And the way to accomplish that not only is you get last hits on the mobs. If you get a last hit on a mob, it'll give you gold. So not only do you get EXP by killing a mob, last hits will get you gold. It varies between mob to mob how much gold you get, but usually I think you can get around 25 to about 300 gold, somewhere around that region for a kill, depending on the mob. And also, you have jungle areas, and these jungle areas are basically cave-like regions. They're between the middle lane and the outside lanes. You have these jungle areas. I think it's like the first set of towers you come across. Right behind those towers, you will have the jungle areas, and those have a little bit more stronger type of mobs than the common mobs that are usually present in the lane areas. And if you kill those, not only do you get a lot of EXP, but you get a lot of gold. And those are really, really useful early game, because you can jump from around level 2 to level 7 by just killing about 6 of those jungle type monsters. And one thing to kind of keep in mind, for most mobs, they have weak spot areas. For the jungle mobs, they're kind of scorpion-like creatures. The actual stinger or their tail of the scorpion mob in the jungles are weak points, kind of like headshots. And same thing with the bigger, larger type of mobs you find in most lanes. Those are pretty easy to kill with headshots as well. So keep that in mind. Work the weak points. Faster you get kills, the more gold you get, the more time you can spend doing other things and kind of building up your character in terms of gold and power-ups. So we talked about jungling. We talked about aiming for the back on melee kills. We talked about the stun nade stuff. Talked about the general information about hero mode. Couple other small things. There's also a boss that spawns. You'll see these little blue portals at the middle of the map on both outside lanes. If you go on those, there's like this huge boss type monster. If you kill it, you get a lot of gold, and not only that, but you get power up in terms of damage. So that's also something that can, if you're like kind of losing the battle, if you kill the boss monster, that may be something that can kind of put yourself in a better position, maybe turn around the match and put it in your favor, so to speak. So that's also something to kind of look out for. Turrets, I really wouldn't recommend you guys go after turrets at the beginning. Turrets deal a lot of damage to you if you're not careful about their line of sight. The good thing is the turrets that are closer to the middle of the map on each team, their range is really short, and they're kind of like their vision's not really that good. So you can kind of get by getting near the turrets a little bit, and you won't really get that much damage. But the farther you get back into enemy lines, the more damage, the more susceptible, and the better vision that the turrets have. Like the last set of turrets on the enemy side is gonna, it's pretty much like an aimbot. I mean, they'll shoot you like halfway. Even if you're like midway between halfway and the enemy spawn, they'll still see you and they'll still do a lot of damage. So that's something to keep in mind. Around like level 16, 17-ish, you can take down a turret in about 30 seconds or so, full on damage. But around level 1 or 2, around level 10, it'll probably take you about 2 minutes around that time. So it's really more beneficial, more worth your time to go after turrets at later stages of the game. Other things to look for, also something that's really cool, is you have this little return spell. You press B, it takes about 10 or so seconds, you're vulnerable, but it'll teleport you back to your spawn. So that's kind of a quick way to get back to your spawn, get healed up, get geared, and get ready to bounce back in the battle. For stuff that I recommend in terms of weapons, I kind of talked about the weapons and what kind of weapons were available. I think kind of the FAMAS is the way to go. FAMAS is kind of a typical standard assault type weapon. Deals a lot of damage, high fire rate, It's a pretty nice scope on it too, so that kind of helps with aiming as well. And I think that's kind of ultimately the go-to weapon. It's a little bit overpowered personally, I think, especially coupled if you are stacking your upgrades for damage. It's really formidable, and I think it can really help out. And I think that's really pretty much it to how hero mode works. I think ultimately, like I said, you gotta play it. You just gotta know how to learn and play it. You're not gonna really have that much success in your first game or two, but as you learn the game type, it'll really help out. Its mechanics are similar to a TDM or any type of game mode in terms of shooting, aiming, walking around, and stuff like that. It's just mostly the meta game and kind of the mechanics behind the mode that'll probably keep people a little bit confused. But like I said, it's a fun game type, really fun. You have achievements for it. You have missions that give you some pretty nice rewards for it by doing hero mode, and also you have I think you have a chance at the end of the game to get some items as well. There's like a little roulette or kind of like a casino little thing where you pick one of the 3 boxes, and you get whatever inside those box or the box that you choose. And you have stuff like melee weapons like the red hammers you can get. You can get camos that are really cool for your weapon. You can get spray cans that you can spray on the map and stuff like that. So there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of exclusive items you can get just from playing hero mode. And like I said, give it a shot. Really fun, and hopefully you'll feel the same way. And thanks for watching as always, guys. Really do appreciate it. If you have any more questions or comments about hero mode, leave them in the comments box down below. I'll do my best to answer them.